Welcome, everyone. My name is Alexandra Morales, and I am a Dean Student Ambassador at the UC Riverside School of Public Policy. I am part of a student committee that has planned today's event on behalf of the UCR School of Public Policy, and I'm excited to serve as your host for today's webinar with our distinguished guest, City of Riverside Mayor Patricia Dawson. But before we move forward with the webinar, I want to first go over the format for today's online seminar. We will devote the first half hour of today's event to a presentation by our guest speaker. We will then reserve the last half hour of today's event for an audience Q&A. For that Q&A, I have also invited a few of my public policy classmates to ask questions on camera directly to our guest. Audience members, if you have any questions you would like me to pose during the Q&A session, please do not send them via chat, but instead please send them using the Q&A feature, which you can find at the bottom of your screens. You can submit your questions anytime throughout the event via the Q&A feature. You do not have to wait until the audience Q&A portion of today's event to send in your questions. Now it is my distinct honor to introduce our special guest speaker. A Riverside, California native and small business owner, Mayor Patricia Dawson was elected the City of Riverside's 18th mayor in November 2020. She comes to the mayor's office having previously served at every level of government and most recently was an elected school board trustee for 9 years. She holds a bachelor's degree in biology from UCR and a master's degree in forestry and watershed management from the University of Washington in Seattle. Mayor Dawson has been vital in passing legislation to secure tens of millions of dollars in state and federal funds for regional conservation, habitat, and infrastructure projects. She is well known across the state as a champion of the Santa Ana River, the namesake of the City of Riverside. Mayor Dawson, we are so honored to have you join us virtually at the UCR School of Public Policy today. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Alexandra, and hello, everybody, and welcome to this seminar, which I am going to go ahead and share my screens and we can get started. I just have a few slides just to kind of go over our priorities in my office and some of the things we have going on. And then I will turn it back over to Alexandra so she can facilitate the question and answer session. So let me share my screen with you. Let's go there and we are going to get our slideshow up and running. And I'm assuming you can all see that. If you can't, let me know, please. But are you seeing this stuff? That's the question. Let's see. Just seeing my slideshow, correct?
Good.
All good? Okay.
All good.
Thank you. All right. So today is December 1st, right? I was sworn in on December 8th last year. So it's been a year in the life, almost shy a week. So we have so many things to talk to you about today. I didn't want to pick just one particular policy area which I could have, but I really want to tell you some of the things that have developed over the past year as mayor and working with my staff, and just to give you an opportunity, mostly for the students, to see some of the things that are going on in our office. So with that, let me move on to our first one. Alexander already kind of went over a little bit of this, but for those of you that don't know, I am the first UCR graduate to be elected to mayor. Now, we had Mayor Loveridge, who many of you may know. He is a professor at UCR, but there's been no Highlanders that have been elected to sit in the seat. So I'm very proud to have that moniker, and proud, and I tell everybody about that, to go Highlanders. You mentioned a few things. I am a Riverside native, the youngest of 5. I went away to graduate school, but I ended up back in Riverside because I love it here and my home was here. And I just feel that the opportunities here are limitless. Just a little bit about how I ended up in politics. I mentioned that I was the youngest of 5 and that I live here in Riverside. I'm the only one of my siblings that resides in Riverside. And the reason for that is because all my brothers and sisters left Riverside to pursue opportunities elsewhere because they didn't have the opportunities here in Riverside for their chosen careers at the time. My sister's a lawyer. She had to go away to law school. Brother's a doctor. Had to go away to be a doctor. Now we've got our own medical school. But this was always a source of frustration to me growing up, that people would leave our region and leave our beautiful city. So when I got involved in politics, I decided to work towards a city where my children didn't have to leave, where you don't have to leave, where people would have every opportunity in the world that they would need to thrive and flourish. So that's how I got into it. And finally, we'll just mention my two other roles, as I'm a scientist. An environmental scientist is my background, and also a mother to three. All right. And about us. Here's my office. Here's everybody here in the office. And I'm really pleased to say we are fully staffed now, and we are really reflective of the community at large. We have my chief of staff, Teresa Salas, is bilingual in Spanish. Edward Coronado is also a Highlander. He oversees my programs and policy department. Philip Falcone, also a Highlander, is my essentially my press secretary. Jake Orta, who many of you may have seen initially as got on the line here, is he does all my economic development, and he is not a Highlander, but we won't hold it against him. We still like him. And he's a Coyote. And for those of you that know where that is, I'll let you figure that out. Kathy Young does all my scheduling. So anytime you need to set up a meeting, she's the person you contact. Naomavu Montgomery is the face of our office. And she's the one that you get to see when you first walk in. And then Kathy Alavi is my liaison to the university, as well as our international relations. And she also sits on the Riverside Unified School District Board of Education. Our vision is that while we live in a fantastic place here in Riverside, our best days are still ahead of us. And I firmly believe that. This builds on some of the motivation for why I ran in the first place. And so we've crafted a mission statement to reflect that. It's very important, many of you may know, to have a mission statement and a vision that your office can, everybody within your office agrees on and adheres to, because everything we do here is aligned with this mission. Every priority, every project, every speaking engagement, anything we do here is to serve and honor the needs of our community with integrity, fairness, transparency, and professionalism. And we believe that we, working together, will create a city where people live where they work and know their neighbors and have limitless opportunities. You see a theme here, right? I just want to go over a few of my priorities, and we'll go into more depth in that, all of them, but pretty much they're pretty standard. And then we'll have some more specifics with them, but economic development and job growth has probably been what I've been spending the most time on since I've come into office. Ensuring that our city has stable finances also is important to me. Our social capital here in Riverside. We have an amazing city and amazing groups here. You may have heard us described as a big city with a small town feel. That's because of our social capital here. We have wonderful people that live here. And ensuring that the opportunities that I described are for all. And when I mean all, I mean all. Everybody should have the same opportunities here. So equity and race relations is important to me as well. And also just general quality of life. Riverside has always been a wonderful place to live. We want it to continue to be. So let's talk about what some of these very generic statements look like in practice. When we first started last year in the office, I looked at what were some of the things that we needed to do to tell our story as a city, to make us attractive to outside investment, bring in new jobs, bring in new industry, bring in new businesses. One of the things that we didn't have a real handle on was our competitive advantages. Those of you who have a background in business or are business majors know that a competitive advantage sets you apart from the other cities, the other competitors that are playing in your space. And in a municipal space, that means other cities trying to attract businesses. So we set about identifying what those types of things are. We have our own public utility, which allows us to offer incentives. We have university and a ready workforce here. We have multiple universities. These are the types of things that set us apart as a city. So we have that list now. We're also endeavoring to establish Riverside as a clean tech center of jobs and industry. I have no ambition less than making us the global center for clean tech. And we can do that by leveraging assets such as the California Air Resources Board headquarter and UCR's Center for Environmental Research and Technology. One of the things we've been trying to do is work with the Oasis Center at Riverside to foster an innovation economy and connect startups with capital and attract venture capital into the region. And on that note, I will just throw this out here as a shameless plug. I have a few shameless plugs in this presentation, but I'm launching this coming year something that I'm calling the Mayor's Venture Catalyst Challenge. And this is a competition for students or recent graduates to pitch business ideas. And there will be a competition where there will be a winning entry, several winning entries in 4 different areas. And you'll receive not only a cash prize, but then a year of support from a group of business leaders within the community that will give you the capacity to succeed. So stay tuned for that. You can find out more information about that on my website. Quality of life. This is something that I hear the most about, right? Probably the number one issue I'm hearing about here in Riverside. Every other mayor, every other city council across the state of California is a homelessness problem that we have here. It's only increasing. And to date, I think conversations have really centered around ensuring that we had affordable housing and housing opportunities. But there's also a large portion of our efforts that we haven't addressed, and that is getting additional funding for mental health resources, getting additional resources for behavioral health, addiction support, addressing the victimization and criminal element that many of our homeless people fall prey to when they get out in the community. They lose their homes. And if they're not back in housing within a year, they have a much higher incidence of being victimized and staying on the streets. So the conversation I'm having within my office is, what are the various tracks that we're pursuing through court, through legislation, and through funding to make sure that we're addressing our homeless issue effectively. I'm also really trying to focus on our downtown area to ensure that we have a thriving arts and culture district. We have a lot of very exciting new developments coming online. Also trying to ensure, associated with that we've got high quality entertainment and dining options at all levels so that folks can afford and do things that they want to do, including free things like access to the outdoors. As a wildlife biologist and a former park ranger, I know the importance and the need to be able to access outdoors through trails, and that just creates healthier communities. Our built environment is key to that. And then we're working on ensuring that our neighborhoods, we have 28 of them in the city, 26 of them in the city, and just making sure that each neighborhood is thriving in it and has its own unique identity. I mentioned having stable finances as a priority. It's very, very important. I've established an economic council of business leaders to help me guide my decision-making here. The city has launched priority-based budgeting, which gives us an opportunity to be more strategic and surgical in what we cut or what we grow based on the needs of the community. And I've been advocating for, through the legislature, for not just programs, but funding through the budget. Just had a meeting last week with Senator Roth's office here, where we identified a number of projects that and the funding that's necessary for those projects to that he can take forward within the next year as part of our legislative platform within the city. And just a side note here to let you know, the city is actually in very, very good financial condition right now. And we are looking to make sure we stay that way, but we have had a great amount of sales tax revenue, which was unexpected. So we're doing pretty well. Education, of course, always a priority for me. We're looking, this last year, we did a talent audit, which meant that we looked at all of the graduates coming out of the universities with what degrees they were graduating with and what types of talent that we can offer businesses when they are looking to staff up and hire. I'm also launching something called Campus Riverside, which is something for our students here. Campus Riverside will be a program that will link students to internships, jobs, things to do, opportunities. It's based on something called Campus Philly from Philadelphia. If you want to go look at it, you'll see that's what we'll be launching that in the coming year. And also I'm working internationally with some of our sister cities, for example, Erlangen, to create apprenticeships and job opportunities internationally. And also, just for those of you who are beer drinkers out there, I'm also working with Erlangen to bring a beer festival here and a brewing effort here. So they're known for their beer. And lastly, we talked about social capital. Making sure that folks are connected in their communities and connected to their elected officials really starts with accessibility. And in that sense, I've really tried to be as out in the community as possible. I'm a firm believer that City Hall does not have walls, right? City Hall is the city. And so I try to be out in the community as much as possible, just interacting with residents. But I launched this year something called the Big Tent Tour. We've had 7 of those so far. I'm going out into the communities to listen and hear, share what makes our communities and our neighborhoods special and what they'd like to see us do better. I'm also working on something right now called the Civil Rights Walk, which is in downtown Riverside. For those of you who have not been on Main Street, we have a series of statues that celebrate our tradition here in Riverside of civil rights leaders and efforts that have made our community so rich. You can see a link to the Civil Rights Walk video on my website if you want to go look at that. It's about a 20-minute video that discusses all the statues and what we're trying to do with that. Also, we have launched a diversity, equity, and inclusion effort at City Hall, which has entailed training and hiring a DEI officer out of our city manager's office, and that person should be in place by January. Just a couple things while we wrap up here. I recently was selected to participate through a competitive process in the Harvard City Leadership Initiative that is funded by the Bloomberg Philanthropies. I was one of 38 mayors selected internationally to participate in this effort. This will bring resources to our city, funding, interactions with other mayors and other cities internationally on best practices. It's very interesting to talk to the mayor of Bogota, Colombia. She's one of the mayors in our cohort. She has 8 million residents. The mayor of Pretoria, South Africa, 3 million residents. We have 3 here from California, and one is close by here in Pomona. So he and I are interacting a lot together. So this is a really wonderful opportunity for us to grow programs within Riverside. There's our governor there. I'm sure he'd love it that I shared this picture with you. It's a screenshot of a meeting that I've had with the Big City Mayors Coalition, of which I'm a part. Big City Mayors Coalition is the 13 largest cities in the state of California, and that gives us direct access to the governor and the legislature. And with that comes a little bit of influence. And just this last year, we were able to get $2 billion committed directly to the cities to address homelessness over the next 2 years. So this has been actually a very powerful and I would say fruitful relationship. Also, last shameless plug, promise, our next State of the City, where you get to hear all about this stuff and more fun things, is going to be on January 27th. The theme is Tomorrow is Today. Last year's theme was Together Toward Tomorrow. So this year's Tomorrow is Today, the Riverside Resurgence. And we do have some limited scholarships for students that wish to attend. So please contact my office if you are interested in being part of that. So I want to thank you. This is my contact information. If you'd like to get in touch with me, please make sure you email or call, and I'm happy to answer questions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to hand it back to Alexandra.
Thank you so much, Mayor Locke Dawson, for that very insightful presentation, as well as sharing your expertise and plans for the city. I just want to point out one of the comments we got from Luis Montano. He says, as one of Mayor Locke Dawson's interns and a UCR student, I have greatly enjoyed my time working with the mayor and her staff. Very excited for the vision the mayor has for Riverside and Riverside grads overall. I highly recommend entering with her office for anyone who is interested in local government and the policymaking process.
Nice. Thanks, Luis, for that, for the props. I appreciate it. Luis has been a great, I will say, I'm going to throw it back at him. He's been an amazing asset to our office. So thank you, Luis.
That's so good to hear. At this time, we will now transition to our audience Q&A. As a quick reminder to our audience, please submit your questions via the Q&A box instead of via the chat function. I will be posing your questions to the mayor. Additionally, I would like to introduce a couple of fellow classmates who helped me put this event together and who are now joining me on camera. Rayan Kalam and Ebony Odier. They will pose questions directly to the mayor, Locke Dawson, throughout the next 30 minutes as well. The first question is actually from the Q&A audience. Claudia asked, what is the city doing to address water supply shortages and drought?
It's a good question. We are really fortunate to have our own public utility here, Riverside Public Utilities. We implemented a number of conservation measures long before we were mandated to do so, and those are continuing. We also have, believe it or not, we actually have access to a lot of water. We have a very deep groundwater here in Riverside and deep wells here that we're able to access, but that doesn't mean we should be wasteful. Many of the water conservation efforts we've had have included incentives to change out your irrigation systems, change out your vegetation, your lawn to be more drought tolerant. And also the city has passed an ordinance regarding new commercial development with which dictates the types of vegetation. So those are just a few things. So very much on top of that, it's very much key as we plan to the future.
Thank you for answering that question. I actually have a question myself based on your background of kind of environmental work. So I was just wondering how you made your transition from a science-based background, environmental science, to a career in public service.
Wow, that's a big question. Let me see. The short answer is I was a pretty good wildlife biologist, but I was a better policymaker. And I'm a firm believer that you should build on your strengths. So I worked for the federal government. I worked for the state government. I worked locally. And often I would be doing my technical work, but I would be pulled into discussions regarding policy level things or implementation of things. And so I started being asked to do more and more of that work. And when I left full-time work, really to start a family was primarily the impetus for starting my consulting practice so I could be more flexible with my time. I applied for and was appointed to the City of Riverside Planning Commission because I had knowledge of planning and large ecosystem planning. And I used that to get involved. The governor appointed me. I was a two-time gubernatorial appointee under Governor Schwarzenegger and Governor Brown. And then I ran for school board. It just always seemed that there was something to lead me to the next thing where I could help my community.
Thank you for that answer. We have an audience question. Leslie asks, I'm interested in working in economic development. What opportunities are there for this career path in Riverside?
We do have an economic development. It's not a department, it's a division under a department. So there are opportunities there. However, if you'd like to intern in my office, you can, and we can connect you with those opportunities as well. That's the city government. But we also have through UCR, right? There's opportunities, I think, to through your career center to get engaged in internships. But I'm hoping even with my Campus Riverside website, we'll be able to connect you with some more of those opportunities.
Thank you for that insight. We actually have a question for one of our panelists, Ebony, and she will pose her question herself.
Hi, Ebony.
Hi. For those who might be interested in environmental policy, could you please talk a bit more about your efforts related to the conservation of the Santa Ana River and the role you played in that?
I thought we only had a half hour because I could talk for 3 hours on the Santa Ana River, but or more. I've only been working in the Santa Ana River space for 20 years now. So I will tell you, we have this asset right in our city, right? It's a beautiful, what other cities of our size have a gorgeous river like that running through it? And you will ask people who move here, what river is in Riverside, and nobody knows. So it's the Santa Ana River, but 100 miles, headwaters, San Bernardino Mountains to the coast, 100 miles along there. It is the steepest watershed west of the Mississippi. So it's the largest flood risk, I believe. So it just goes right down. So we have issues there. It is actually used in large part for economic development in our region. We take water out, we put water back in. It's a stormwater drainage. It's also used for using industrial water uses. So many businesses will take water out and use it, and then it goes back in. We have to desalinate it. I will end with this. There's lots of different things I could talk about, but I think the question was regarding environmental stuff. There is a big plan that I worked to establish through a state agency called the Santa Ana River Conservancy, which was I was involved in getting legislation passed to create that. But there's a big plan that has identified projects along the Santa Ana River, and I can get the information to Ebony and she can give that to you all. But it identifies projects in habitat, recreation and access, and water quality and quantity. And so there's opportunities to fund those projects in there. And it gives you a list of the types of things that we're looking at to do on the Santa Ana River. Two other things. Actually, let me just do one other thing. I've established something that I'm calling the Economic Development Council for the Santa Ana River. We've been meeting, and tonight is, I think, our last meeting. And then we will be taking a report to City Council in winter on a set of recommendations for different types of things that we can do with the river here in the city. Wow, that was, see, I told you, it was like, I'm just, now I could just go on, but I'll stop there.
Thank you for sharing your expertise. We have another audience Q&A question. So Criselda asks, her questions regarding housing. She's asking, what are the concerns of Riverside's NIMBYs and how can we work together?
You know, believe it or not, we actually have some YIMBYs here in Riverside as well. We have people that really wish to have development to create more affordable housing here in Riverside. Many of you may know the city of Riverside is under a state mandate to create at least 18,000 new residential units within the city over the next 8 years. That's going to be difficult to do without having to put infill development and higher development, right? So more dense and higher, we're going to have to go up. And also, we will be supporting some new housing through accessory dwelling units, which are ADUs. Many of you may know about this term, but these are, old name would be granny flats, or something that you could put a tiny home or something in your backyard if you have a big enough space. You can put in an ADU, and the ADU will, you know, you'd be able to rent it out or have additional family members or something there. So there's a state law passed recently that allowed ADUs to be put in city plans. One of the concerns of the NIMBYs, I guess I would say, not to use that term, is the strain that some of this increased development will put on our infrastructure, sewers, electrical, you know, city streets, the impact that will have, and how do we accommodate all that growth and still maintain a nice quality of life. So that's what we're dealing with now, is trying to balance those things.
Thank you for answering that attendee's question. We actually have another attendee that is asking, what is the city doing to continue with COVID protection, especially with the first Omicron case found in California?
Oh my gosh, I feel like we've lived and breathed this for the past year, and it continues to go on. Well, first and foremost, we have established vaccination sites throughout the city. We've had mobile vaccination sites to go out into underrepresented communities, which had some success there with some groups that may have been hesitant to perhaps receive vaccines or were not able to get to vaccine sites. That's been fairly successful. And we've continued to really encourage folks to get vaccinated and get their boosters. So make sure we do that. We have a mask policy at all city buildings. Any city place that you're in and you're interacting with each other and inside with city staff, you have to be masked. So that's important. And we have an emergency operations center that is continuing to monitor daily the number of cases, and our threat levels. And we have different activities that are invoked when threat levels change. So, and the City Council receives an update from the Emergency Operations Center weekly on what's going on with vaccination status, cases, ICU capacity, and just how we're faring overall as a community relative to the state and the country.
Thank you for answering that question and sharing those guidelines. We have another audience question from Johanna. She says, thank you, Mayor Locke Dawson. I think that homelessness and need for social services are linked. The more people experiencing homelessness, the more social services funding we need to address issues such as mental well-being. Because of this, prioritizing people to stay and keep their homes is needed to prevent secondary societal issues. What solutions are you envisioning to address this problem?
That's the hugest issue, right? I mentioned that our population of homeless people is not monolithic. We know from our data the percentage of people who, I think 30% of our homeless population lost homes for the first time this last year, right? So that's 30% that we probably could have gotten to stay in their homes and stopped that number of people from contributing to, potential problems later. We know many suffer from addiction, and what options do they have? We know many are formerly incarcerated. What options do they have, right, to get out and work? We know many suffer from behavioral health and mental health issues. So what are we providing for them? I mentioned we're pursuing things through the courts to help folks who may have been convicted of or had crime-related issues, that they could find options where they don't end up in jail, but perhaps have different options. And I can talk about that later. But we also are working with the county to establish additional mental health facilities and recuperative care facilities. We just opened 2 recuperative care facilities this last year. And that's where people coming out of hospital who may not have a home to go home to are able to go and get stable, and we can connect them with services and houses. We also have something called the ARC, or the Arlington Recovery Center, which is where people can go to connect with services who are suffering from addiction or mental health issues. And that is coming online this year as well. So we're investing an enormous amount of money, I think, in the various subgroups, so that it's not just a bed, right? It's stopping the problems before people lose their homes, getting people connected with keeping them in their homes. And then once the folks are out there, how do we address their specific needs and direct resources accordingly? So it's a big issue that we're dealing with. I will mention, I mentioned that I was a gubernatorial appointee. I was a gubernatorial appointee to the California Board of Behavioral Sciences. For 8 years, I served on that board, and that oversees all the mental health professionals in the state, social workers and marriage and family therapists. And so this is a personal passion of mine that I just am pursuing all avenues to make sure that those things get addressed. Long-winded answer, but as you can tell, I am passionate about it.
Yes, thank you for answering that really big question. We have another audience question from Professor Kurt Schwabe. He says, great hearing from you today, Mayor Dawson. Today's challenges often require collaboration across political boundaries. Any advice on how to get people to collaborate on issues where they may not see the benefits at first?
Excellent question. And that's something I think I don't put that as a priority in my office, but I feel it's a priority that is a cross-cutting thread across everything that we do here. I find, and I have found this throughout my career, that you can bring people to the table, and as long as you give them a common issue and they focus on that issue, that often the partisanship and the differences go away, and people begin to see that they share common goals to address issues. So whatever I do, I think you can't call a group of people together and say, hey, we're going to solve bipartisanship. Hey, we're going to stop, we're going to stop people from othering others and making people feel different, right? That's fine, but people come in already with a mindset that somebody's going to be different from there. I think if you are intentional about who you invite to the table and they represent many different interests, and then you have them focus on a specific issue, I find that to be a very successful recipe for getting beyond differences.
Thank you for sharing that advice and answering that question. We have more audience Q&A questions, particularly addressing the transportation in the city. So an anonymous entity asks, can you share more about supporting alternative or active public transportation within the city?
So active transportation to me has a specific meaning, and that is folks walking, biking, and using their own 2 feet and their own ability to get around. So let me talk about that first. We received recently a transformative climate communities grant on the east side over by UCR actually to affect our built environment to make it more walkable, more bikeable. And what I like to call the 15-minute neighborhood, that everything you need should be within 15 minutes of where you live, your shopping, your job, your schooling. So that's all something that we're trying to do. And that's a bit of a, I would almost say a pilot project for the rest of the city to see how successful we can be there. Trying to ensure that we have, our fleets are clean. We've been, and we do have a clean vehicle fleet here in the city of Riverside. So that's just for our own transportation. Working with our transportation agencies to reduce diesel emissions by getting different types of vehicles either on the road or on their tracks. So that's something that's very important. We have this neighborhood. It's looking at our different neighborhoods. It's called the Riverside Pact. I'm trying to remember what the acronym stands for, but it's making our neighborhoods, each one of our 26 neighborhoods, more walkable and providing opportunities for bike paths within those. So lots of different things going on to encourage people to get out. Not only is it better for the environment, it's better for the individual, right? It's just healthier. It's healthier in that you exercise your body, you're outdoors, you're giving your mind a break, but you're also connecting with your community when you're out there and people are together. So these are all really important elements for a healthy community.
Thank you for your answer. We have an anonymous attendee asking, you mentioned hiring a diversity, equity staff in your office. What will be their top priorities once they're working?
We are developing that right now. So I will tell you, we have a consultant on board right now that is helping us to craft the job description and ensure that we get it right as to who we hire and what are the types of issues that they need to address. I think we can all have an idea of what those priorities might be, but until we're able to get out in the community, which is what this person will do, to determine what are the biggest needs within the community. I don't want to have that be pre-decisional, right? I think it's the community that's going to be informing us of those things. So our consultant is helping us to craft that.
That sounds great. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
We have a student question from Adamo Lopez. He writes, I understand this is not only an issue for this city. However, I was wondering if the city recognizes poor air quality, and if so, is there a plan to alleviate this?
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I don't know how many times I can tell you. I mean, one of the big exciting things, right? That's an obvious thing is that we do have the California Air Resources Board headquarters, which has now come to Riverside, which is the state-of-the-art testing and air quality regulator for our region. So, and they will be working in tandem with UCR CSERT, which does emissions testing. So we have, what better place to impact air quality than Riverside, where we do have some of the worst air quality in the nation, but we also have the best minds, the best technology, the best resources here to address it. So, so that's the big answer. But then we also have, things that we're implementing within our city here in our sustainability program to, get more trees planted, have a greener environment. Or if you can't get more trees, how about products that mimic trees? We're working with a company. We're trying to bring them here from South America. They have a photosensitive paint. What's the name of the company? I think is Photio. And if you paint it on the wall, it actually mimics photosynthesis and takes out harmful things out of the air. So, yeah. So very, it's a cool opportunity not only for economic development but also to clean our air up. But yeah, in our, I don't know if you know, but our school district, North High School here, which is over by UCR, they are also working with their air quality control board to do air quality sampling right at the school. So they're working, we're developing professionals at the K through 12 level and awareness of the issue and how to address it. So yeah, it's a huge issue for our region. It just is. And we're to some extent victims of our geography here, but let's reduce the emissions. We can't change the geography, so let's at least reduce what we're dealing with here.
Thank you for sharing the answer and the plans to fix the problem. Our next question will actually be from our student panel from Rayon.
Hello, Rayon.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. On a little bit less of a serious note, I wanted to ask about your time at UCR, and I wanted to ask more specifically, what inspired you to get into your line of work, and how did that come from UCR, and how did that impact you?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I love UCR. I just want to let you know, you guys all made the right choice. I was thought I was going to go to medical school. So I was a biology major, and then I took a class with a professor there named Wilbur Mayhew. He's the first, he established the UC reserve system. For those of you that don't know about that, the UC has a beautiful properties that are preserves throughout the state of California. And I took that class and I became very interested in environmental issues and protecting the environment. I mentioned this before, I'm very passionate about making sure that our beautiful state stays clean and beautiful. And that was my introduction to that. And when I became a park ranger, I saw that the decisions were being made not at the technical level, but at the elected and the policy level. And I knew that to really impact changes and impact things, I knew I would have to get into that space in order to have more impact. So that's how I got into it. I don't know if that answered your question, Ryan, but that's kind of where it started.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for your questions. We have now reached the conclusion for today's event. I want to say thank you again to our distinguished guest, Mayor Patricia Dawson, for taking time to be with us today. Thank you so much, Mayor Dawson, for answering all of our questions and providing us a lot of insight.
Oh, my pleasure.
Special thanks as well to my fellow classmates in the planning committee for this event, Rayan Kalam and Ebony Odier. Thank you for your work. Also, we hope you'll join us at our next online event tomorrow, which will feature City of Riverside Council member Clarissa Cervantes. You can learn more about events like these that are hosted by the UCR School of Public Policy by visiting spp.ucr.edu. While you're there, you can also learn about our new upcoming Master of Public Policy program, as well as our new combined BA/MPP program. Thank you all for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you at future installments of the UCR School of Public Policy Seminar Series. Until then, goodbye.